Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can notice, my surroundings have changed. I am back in college and I'm so excited to be sharing with you my goals, my language learning goals for 2020. So a little bit of a problem happened to me. My bag was actually lost during my travel, so I wasn't able to get my charger and I wasn't able to upload a video yesterday, but I am doing it today, so excuse me for that. But anyway, I'm going to be trying to be as consistent as possible, and I'm going to try to make a video every single week, if not 2 videos maybe. I think that for the most part, I'm going to stick with 1 video, just FYI. So now, let's go back to the language learning goals. I think that my language learning goals for the year are going to be very simple. They're only going to be 3 goals, and I am going to not only share them so that you can see what other polyglots are doing and trying to learn, but also because I'm going to be sharing tips and tricks in terms of how I want or how I mean to achieve those goals this year. So keep on watching. So my first goal for 2020 is actually my loftiest goal, and that is to learn an entire language. I've been browsing through many languages, and I feel like you should really take your time in terms of choosing the language that you're going to learn, because as I said before in the last video, it is a life commitment. So you really have to think hard whether you like that culture, whether you are enamored with the literature, the people, the music, the country, the geography. It is important for you to understand that, because the purpose of learning a language, for me at least, is actually using it and living in the country for a little bit. So I want to make sure that I absolutely adore the language. So I've been browsing through a few languages. Some of them I've discarded, not because I don't like the languages, but just because I don't think that I could learn them by myself. So the language I choose was Portuguese. And the reason I chose this language is because it has basically like 90% lexical similarity with Spanish. And since I already know Spanish, French, and Italian, I think that it will be really easy for me to get a quick grasp of Portuguese. However, obviously, as any Romance language learner or Romance language speaker can tell you, the challenge will really be to differentiate those languages. Fortunately, I've learned the Romance languages I know in a very separate interval of time, so it's impossible for me to really confuse a word in Spanish for a word in French. It just sounds completely different to me, and those systems are very solidified in my brain to the point where they're 2 worlds apart. But for someone starting those 2 languages, they might look very, very similar. So again, the challenge will be to really differentiate Portuguese from Italian and Spanish. I don't want to be, obviously at the beginning, I'm going to be trying to use words in Spanish and Italian, thinking that they're actually Portuguese words, but I'm going to try my best not to do that and to really rely on not translating from Spanish or Italian to Portuguese, but just to learn the language as purely and unadulterated as possible. So I just wanted to give you an example of how similar these 2 languages actually are. And I'm just going to be saying 2 phrases in each of the languages, and you will really hear the similarities between them. Okay, so in Portuguese is eu quero ir, and in Spanish is yo quiero ir. So I will also be writing them you will see them on the screen, and you can really tell that they are very similar in terms of pronunciation, in terms of spelling, and in terms of grammar. So this is going to be a hard challenge. Okay. So my second goal is actually pretty interesting. I devised this system last year, and it was kind of just like an idea that popped in my mind. And how it popped in my mind was by really understanding what kind of learner I was. So in terms of languages and polyglots, different people like to learn different things. I've seen, I think from this other polyglot, I can't remember, I think it's Lindy Boats on YouTube, and I think that she said that she really likes learning grammar. But for me, it's kind of like the opposite per se. I love learning vocabulary, and I don't really like learning grammar at all. I kind of learn grammar by osmosis after I've gotten a good grasp of, say, like 500 to 1,000 words in a language. That's how I personally learned the language. Obviously, it's not the most efficient thing in the world. The most efficient thing would be if I was learning grammar and vocabulary at the same time. However, I understand what motivates me and what doesn't motivate me. And what motivates me is learning new words every single day, not grammar rules. So what I did this summer, starting in June, I just started making lists of vocabulary words that I didn't know in all the languages that I was practicing. So at the time, I was learning 5 languages, including my mother tongues, English and Spanish. And I was just making this list and learning them every single day, or revising them every single day. And obviously with spaced repetition, some words I wouldn't review unless I got them wrong. And if I got them wrong, they would get pushed onto the next week worth of words. Yeah. So that was basically my system. And just to give you a sense of how many words I learned around I think I wrote it somewhere. I don't have my iPad here, but it was 3,100 words. And I didn't really know what that meant. I thought that I could learn a lot more than that, but it turns out that that is what I was able to do. And I think that's awesome. So this year I'm going to try to do around 5,000 words for the entirety of the year. Because in order to do that, I would have to be very, very consistent in terms of my languages. So that's what I want to accomplish. And if you're interested, these are actually the amounts of words, the number of words that I learned per language. I will just put it right here. And yes, so what I recommend you with this strategy is first for you to understand what kind of learner you are and what do you like about learning languages. Do you like reading? Do you like reviewing vocabulary? Do you like reviewing grammar rules? Do you like reviewing pronunciation? And I would suggest for you to have fun with that, and then by osmosis kind of try to learn the other things about the language. That works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And I know it's not the most efficient thing, but I know that I would get pretty discouraged if I was only learning grammar rules. It would feel like a class rather than something I do for myself. And the third goal that I have for this year is actually, it has to do with reading, and it has to do with giving the same attention to all the languages that I'm learning. So I kind of get a little bit lazy in terms of learning languages or in terms of reading. I like reading a lot, and I feel like I want to understand every single word that the book says. Therefore, I see myself reading only in English and in Spanish. And I don't really read books in French, Italian, or German because they are my weakest languages. And it is harder for me to understand a book in those languages than it is in the languages I already have solidified. So what I'm trying to do this year is I kind of like made a rule for myself. I don't have an exact number of books that I want to read, but I feel like this rule is really going to help me to give equal attention to all the languages that I'm learning. So my rule goes like this. First, I'm going to read a book in English, then I'm going to read a book in Spanish, then a book in French, and then German and Italian and so forth and so on until I finish the circuit, and then I restart back in English. So in that way, I will make sure to give equal attention to all the languages and not actually just kind of like improve on the languages that I'm already good at. That makes little sense for somebody that wants to be I don't know if I want to be at a native level in all the languages. Yes, I do. Of course I do. But that's a very lofty goal, and it will take me so many years to do that. So why not start now? Giving equal attention to all the languages. So these are all my recommendations for you guys this year, and I'm so sorry I couldn't upload a video yesterday. I'm trying to be consistent with this because I know that that's the key to being successful in YouTube. And yeah, thank you so much for being part of this community. I am astounded by the number of people that have subscribed because that really means that people really value languages. And I am so happy to see that people have kind of the same passion for me. So thank you all, and I will see you next week. Hey guys, one thing that I forgot to mention is that I will actually be putting the links of all the books that I will be reading in the first circuit. So you can check any of the books in Italian, German, Spanish, French, English, and Portuguese that I will be reading, I guess, this month. So thank you so much, and go check them out in Amazon.